Hello, I'm Eric Houston, and welcome to In Focus. This month, we're focusing in on Bukola Oriola and her program, Imprisoned. Imprisoned is a hard-hitting, socially conscious program that tackles the tragedy of human trafficking head-on, with interviews, news, music, and more, all under the guiding hand of producer and host, Bukola Oriola. Let's take a quick look at Imprisoned.
Would you say there is human trafficking in Anoka County, and why is there?
I think, as you mentioned earlier, it does exist everywhere, including Anoka County. And why is there human trafficking in Anoka County would be the same thing as it is for all over the world. And it is an international problem. And it really comes down to, fundamentally, I think, greed. You know, there's people that put their own best interest or their own wants above what's best for other people. When they think only about themselves, they start thinking about the profitability, and ultimately they're going to be willing to tap into an endless supply of victims, and ultimately they see the humans as just another commodity that can be reused over and over and feeding that source of revenue and feeding their greed, and they're not caring about that person. Within Anoka County, I think some other key instrument or key portions of that are the easy recruitment, meaning these bottom feeders that take advantage of other people have a lot of opportunity. They can go to the area malls, they can go to skate parks, they can hit the bus stops or other parks. And in this modern day that we live in, social media is a huge area where they also go and look for more victims, whether it's on Facebook or some other area like that. And the youth don't always realize, in the case of youth, but people in general even, don't always realize that the person they're talking to or communicating with and establishing a friendship really isn't a friendship, and more often than not, it's very routine that both of our offices see these reports come through where people have been victimized by someone who lured them out of their house or out of their safe zone to go meet and ultimately end up in a situation they didn't want to.
All right. Welcome to the show, Bukola.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we're here to talk about Imprisoned. So tell us a little bit about that. What's the show about?
Imprisoned show is about human trafficking.
Yeah.
It's set out to educate the public about what human trafficking really is, because right now there is a misconception outside there where people just understand a little bit or misunderstand what human trafficking is. And it's to bring to the awareness of the community especially that they could be living with someone in their community who is a victim of human trafficking. And knowing it the way it's supposed to be known by the layman will help them to give help or point a victim towards getting help or contact authorities about what they have seen, because it could look normal in the neighborhood whereby it is not normal.
Now, what do you think then is the most common misconception about human trafficking?
The most common one is that they just think human trafficking is when somebody is kidnapped and taken away into prostitution. That is the most one that is common among people. They just think the person is kidnapped and taken away into prostitution and killed. But beyond that, someone can be your neighbor and be a victim of human trafficking, because in this modern day, spouses traffic one another, parents traffic their children, children traffic their parents. So in a situation whereby a spouse has trafficked the other person and they are living together in the house, and you are just a neighbor, you will assume that they are just spouse living together. And in the case of labor trafficking, it is so hidden that it's hard to prove. It is only someone who has gone through it, or those who are providing services that will be able to understand that someone is actually a victim of human trafficking, either labor or sex. Most people know about sex. And once they see prostitution, they take that as sex trafficking. But there is still the labor trafficking that is hidden. And you don't know, it might be your co-worker that is a victim of labor trafficking. Because labor trafficking really is when your labor is being sold, meaning that you are working and somebody else is collecting the money. Just like sex trafficking, where you are being used for sex and somebody is collecting the money.
And I
Excuse
think
me.
no problem. And I think that that's one of the things that's been most interesting about watching your show and about the clip that we just saw a minute ago, is that you were able to talk about there being human trafficking in our community.
Yes.
Here in Anoka County.
Yes. And like in my case, I was a victim of human trafficking in Anoka County. In fact, in Ramsey City.
Yeah.
I think in November, I went to present at the Ramsey City Rotary Club meeting. And when I mentioned that I was trafficked in Ramsey, they were surprised that, you know, in Ramsey right there, I was a victim. So a victim could be anybody, it could be anywhere, and a victim could be somebody you see every day without knowing that that person is a victim.
Right. And as you said, it happened to you. You were one of those people.
Yes.
And that's why you do this show.
Yes, because as a victim, when you are suffering, even though people see you, they don't know what is going on. In my case, I passed through doctors who could not help me because they didn't know. I passed through those who were coming to braid hair because in my case, it was labor trafficking where I was working and somebody else, my spouse who was my trafficker, was collecting the money. And those people were coming and paying the money thinking they were paying that money to me, but somebody else was collecting the money. And in that case, those people didn't really know what was going on. They didn't understand until I became rescued. I myself didn't know that I was a victim of human trafficking. And that is the case for so many victims. They don't know that they are victims of human trafficking until they get help and get rescued and educated. And that's why it's so important for me to educate. And coming from my background as a journalist, I was someone who was the watchdog and looking out and advocating for others. I then became a victim of human trafficking. So that made me to think that if I, who thought that I knew a lot, could become a victim, anybody could become a victim.
Absolutely.
And that's why it's necessary for me to keep, you know, talking about it. In my community, it's hard to talk about this kind of thing because already domestic abuse is not taken care of. So human trafficking is just like an overlap over that, and it's like little or nobody cares. So coming out, and as a woman, coming out to speak about this is a shameful thing. But I decided that if I don't come out, I thought about how many people will die if I don't share my story, because I was already a walking corpse at the time I got rescued. So if I don't speak, some other people will die. So I rather speak and take the shame from my community than keep silence and let other people die.
Absolutely. And so you've written a book about your experiences.
Yes.
You give regular talks about them, and now you do the television show here.
Yes.
And it's, you know, just because of everything that you've said, it's very important work, and it's a very important message. And like you were saying, especially here, because I think a lot of people in this community think, well, this is kind of a New York City problem or a Los Angeles problem. It can't, you know, it's not happening here. And like you say, it is very much so. How does it make you feel to know that you're, with your show and your other works, helping women who are in your situation?
Okay, you know, there's something that is called testimony. When you, results, you know, like the layman would say, when you do something and you see results, then you know that thing is working.
Right.
And in my case, the medicine is working because since I've been going out to speak, many victims have been coming out by themselves. Even braiding hair at the shop, it gives me opportunity to meet a lot of women. And sometimes I get calls by even those who are my clients, or someone who is my client knows someone or hears a story and say, oh, this story is related to Bukola's story. I think you should talk to Bukola. So they call me and come to me and I refer them. So many people, women and men, have been getting help because of my story, which I'm grateful for. And in some places where I go to speak, because I go to speak at hospitals, clinics, schools, and my next upcoming presentation is with the Hennepin County Bar, where lawyers are being trained about identifying. And some of these people that I've gone to speak at the event now are able to identify victims, especially at the clinics where victims come to sometimes. In my case, I went to the hospital, but they couldn't help me.
Right.
After I had my baby, I didn't want to go home, but they didn't know.
Right.
And I couldn't talk to anybody because for a victim, you don't trust anybody. Once you get to that point, there is no one else that you trust except yourself and God. And you just hope that either you die or a miracle happens. So it's hard to reach out for victims. And that's why it's very important for me to keep speaking and telling them that there is help. Once they know that help is available, they will come out. I know there was a time that Oprah did a show on domestic abuse, not even human trafficking, and all the women I saw on there were American indigenous women, like the African American native here. There was no immigrant women. So I couldn't assume that immigrant women too could get help. But in my case, immigrant women are now coming out to ask for help, to ask if really there is help for them.
Learning about the mechanisms that exist in this country to help them reach out. And I want to talk to you a little bit about the different ways in your show that you approach these topics and address them. And I know that one of them is that a friend of yours, Rose, wrote some songs and performed them on your program as sort of a tribute to the victims and the survivors of human trafficking. So what I'd like to do real quick is let's take a little break and let's watch a part of one of those performances and then come back and talk more about your show. Okay?
Come with me to a faraway place. I'll mend all your fears and dry all your tears. I'll take you along a winding path. It will take us to somewhere never turn back. You'll heal from the pain that's been laid upon you. Just feel the sun that's trying to shine through. Don't give up now. Life will get better. Just take my hand and you'll understand that you're not alone, and I'm here by your side. You can hold on to me and I'll help you break free. Let's tear through this wall.
Okay, welcome back to the show. So that was just one of the musical performances from your show, but you have more than music. You have interviews too. Who are some of the people you've interviewed on your show?
Okay, some of the I started with the Civil Society Director and an immigration attorney. The Civil Society was the organization that helped me.
Okay.
And the attorney was the one who presented my petition to the INS, as you would. And I decided to bring the two of them to talk about the issue of human trafficking and the help available. That was like 2 years ago, almost 2 years. And then we didn't do anything again until last year. And I brought in, the next person was an organization. I found out that there is an organization by men, which is good because those who are demanding most are men. It's unfortunate that men are the ones that, you know, are in it more in terms of trafficking. So this organization...
Are the traffickers, you mean?
Yes. So the organization is Men Against the Trafficking of Others. You know, educating men and encouraging them to stop it, or if they know someone, you know, just to keep them educated.
Right.
And then I interviewed also the Alexandra House director. They had a walk, and we went to cover the walk. And Alexandra House also was the shelter that took myself and my son and gave us a bed for 8 months.
Yeah.
And then I interviewed the Anoka County Sheriff and the Anoka County Attorney, because I was interested to know what the county is doing about human trafficking and educate the community.
And that's a pretty big guest-wise.
Yes, it was. I was lucky to get them. And actually, when I called the attorney first and left a message, and I was really happy when he returned my call. Then I went to the sheriff's office. And when I got there, luckily for me, his secretary had heard me speak before.
Oh, good.
So I didn't know her, but she recognized me. I said, oh, yeah, I heard you speak. And I was like, oh, good. that worked for me in a way. And she was like, oh, don't worry, I will help you to check their schedules and work with you to let them come on the show. Yeah. And they were pretty excited. And in fact, the Anoka County Sheriff took a step further to like Imprisoned show on Facebook.
Well, there you go.
Yes. And he commented on the Imprisoned show website, which was really good. And then after that, we interviewed someone working with children, victims of human trafficking, because children are also trafficked. Right. In fact, they're the most trafficked victims. In terms of sex slavery, they cost more. Sure. They bring in more money for the trafficker. So, and even in labor slavery too, more children are used, especially in other countries of the world. So we brought in that guest to talk about what they are doing, Mission 21, about human trafficking. And we had an episode on me and my story, because I keep getting questions, and sometimes people invite me for presentation that I cannot attend for one reason or the other, because going around, it costs me money. And I'm only breathing here. That is my only means of income. Sometimes they pay a little, sometimes they don't pay. So it's difficult to, I have the passion, I want to help, but you know, when I don't have the means all the time, it's hard. So I decided to do that episode on my story. So if someone invites me and I'm not able to go, I will refer them to the video. So
and you can kind of be there that way.
Yes, so they can watch the video and listen to the story, because it was one of the presentations that I did that I put in that video, plus the studio work that we did. Then the last one we had was someone who was looking for an organization here to do a 3-month program on human trafficking, and nobody will take her. But there was an organization that would take her in India. And she traveled to India to do that. And she came back with, you know, wonderful story, wonderful work that some organizations are doing. And I'm grateful that she accepted to come on our show, because when Google gave out 11 million last year, and that 11 million went to India, I was one of those that was upset. That why will a lot of the money go to India, and only 1 million was left for few organizations here to scramble upon. But when she came back with the story and the work they're doing there, I appreciated more why Google gave that money out to them in India. And that's what is still coming up. It's not out yet.
That's the episode you just shot?
Yes.
Yes. So we'll be seeing that one soon?
Yes, we'll be seeing that one soon.
Okay. So
we'll be seeing more what you don't think happens in terms of trafficking, like the trafficking of human parts, and knowing that those who are even involved in that are those you trust with your eyes and your body, doctors and funeral homes. So somebody will come and be telling us.
A whole nother dimension to it.
Yes.
And that's one of the things I'm really impressed by your guest list, is how broad it's been, and how each episode is a different perspective on the issue, and you know, builds on each other and really informs the public like that about, like we say, this very important topic. I'm curious, do you have a dream guest for your show?
A dream guest.
Yeah.
My dream guest is President Obama.
Yeah.
And I've started taking the baby steps towards that.
Yeah.
Because in January, it was the Human Trafficking Prevention Month. And I contacted the White House because they have a press release or something, which they didn't release out yet, but they had a meeting, and I was like, okay, what is the White House doing about this topic? Because on that day, January 11th, I watched the news, and there was nothing on human trafficking. Okay, if we are to educate the people really about this topic, and the White House is not blowing its trumpets, how will the people take it seriously or even learn about it? So I called, and they said they just had a round table. I was a little bit disappointed, but it was good that they had a round table. I believe that it's still kind of work in progress, and after that, I think President Obama has been speaking out a little bit more about that issue publicly, and I'm hoping that one day I'll be able to talk to him as a guest on our show.
Well, I think if anybody can do it, Bukola, it's going to be you. Well, I'm saying you have so much passion, and and you're so good at telling the story and informing, and just the tireless effort toward it. If anybody's going to get that, it's going to be you. But tell me a little bit about the crew that helps you out on your show. I know you use a lot of volunteers from here at the station.
Yes, they are volunteers from here, and I'm so grateful to my crew. They're the best people, especially Laura. Laura was a student here when I was a student, and I proposed 2 shows. And she was willing to work with me, hair braiding show. And we were like, oh yes, we don't have hair braiding, let's do hair braiding show. We did 2 episodes, and we put it to rest. And then the Imprisoned show. But when I started getting more requests, I'm like, okay, what do I do now? We haven't done this for a while, so let me see. I contacted Laura, and she was excited to come back. I contacted you, and you were like, oh yes, come back, come back. And Laura, 3 of our children work with us on the crew, including the little girl who is handling the Kids Against Trafficking segment. And I'm so grateful to them. And then I was lucky, after sending you an email and you sent it out, we had Robert, who is now coming regularly to help in every way. He could even, the last time we came here last week, he was sick. And I didn't know. He just called me like last minute, I'm not coming. So I was like, oh God, what do I do? So we came and we're like, okay, whatever we can do, we will do. And he showed up. And he didn't tell me he was sick until he was speaking. Then I was like, oh, you're not feeling fine. Then he said he was sick. And I'm so grateful. And then we had Devry, who helped us to edit episode 3, and you'll find out that among the editing, the episode 3 stands out because I'm a rookie editor. I don't do so much good job.
But like we talked about before the show, you're getting better and better, and I'm so thrilled that you have such a dedicated crew helping you out. It is an important issue, and you really have inspired a lot of dedication in the people that you work with, and honestly, I think you guys are putting together a really fantastic, really important show.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bukola. So let's take a look at one more clip from the show, okay? But thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Okay, here we go.
Today we have Stephanie Holt from Mission 21 in Rochester, Minnesota. Thank you for coming in the cold. I think it was -4 degrees this afternoon.
It was.
So we really appreciate your coming here tonight.
Great. Thank you for having me.
So you are an advocate for victims of human trafficking, specifically for children.
Yes.
So how did you come about this?
Well, Mission 21 started, it would be the summer of 2010, so about 2 years ago. We're in our 2nd year, and it was, I learned about the issue, I wasn't looking for it really, and I was invited to a training on how to identify victims in the United States, and it was the first time that I had ever heard of human trafficking happening in America. And so what I got out of that is that, well, I need to educate a lot more people about this. I didn't know about it. A lot of my friends and family didn't know about it. And when I came back to Minnesota, I started researching organizations that were helping victims and found out that there was nothing in the state of Minnesota that was helping children, specifically with housing children after they were rescued from trafficking. And so as I met with other organizations throughout our state, I figured that the need for the state of Minnesota was to create an organization that would eventually have a safe home for children who are rescued from sex trafficking. And so
I'd like to thank Bukola once again for joining us here on In Focus. I'd also like to thank my wonderful crew, who, as always, has been made up of students taking our free monthly How to Make a TV Show class. If you'd like to sign up for that or any of our other free classes, you can call or email me at 763-231-2803 or eric@northmetrotv.com. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next month on In Focus.